Hey friends, welcome to episode 6 of the Handyman Success Podcast. Super excited to have you here. My name is Alan Lee with my co-host Jason Call. And basically the mission of this podcast is to hear the story of handymen from all around the world and basically hear their story of success in the hopes to teach and inspire. So today we are interviewing Mike Benner here out of Omaha, Nebraska. So Mike, maybe you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, tell us about your business, when you started up, and kind of how things are going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely honored to be here. This is super exciting opportunity for me. So very excited for that. So I don't know exactly where you want to start, but my name is Mike Benner. Own and operate Always Dependable Handyman services. We are out of Omaha, Nebraska. We've officially been in business since May 2018. Just going strong. So I don't know if you want to kind of get into how I started or where you want to start off. I'm happy to start wherever.
How about we start here? So where's your business at, like, right now, as far as I know you've got a team working for you. If you don't mind sharing, maybe like your annual revenue from like maybe projected this year, if you know that, or kind of something where that kind of puts a pin in right now, and then we can dig into, May 2018 onward.
Okay, awesome. So right now we are about 175,000 kind of annual revenue for the year right now. Gonna hit 250,000 is goal for this year, which is huge from last year. Last year was just me, so it was a lot lower. I mean, it was I want to say last year was more like 80,000. So
Wow.
growing and excited. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. If you had to pinpoint one thing, what has made that growth possible from last year to this year?
A couple things. Last year, part of the year, I was actually doing it part-time. And then also I brought on some technicians. That's kind of the main thing, is bringing on some more employees.
Mm-hmm. So were you getting too many leads that you were just turning people away because you're part-time, and then you brought on technicians to?
Yeah. So I was doing it part-time, and now we officially have one part-time technician who's been with us over a year. We have 2 full-time technicians. This morning, just hired on a customer relations manager. So that would bring us up to 6 people total in our company.
Wow. So you just hired a CSR this morning. Is that what you said?
Yep.
That's exciting, man. How did you find that person? Okay, cool, man. That's awesome. You kind of broke up there, but so were you saying your wife is your CSR, or you have an outside CSR?
Yeah, so she's switching out of the role. So as of this morning, we hired on another one from another, new one. So
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. That's great. So you've been applying some of the stuff that we've been talking about. That's pretty cool.
Yes,
that's awesome to hear.
Absolutely.
What is your, if you don't mind sharing, what are like the specific tasks that your customer service person does every day?
Well, before I was having my wife do it. She was the initial point of contact for the business, getting information from new customers, doing scheduling for me and the other technicians. I'll get into this later. It didn't really, I think, work out having my wife in that role. So she's stepping away from that role, focusing on other things. And then we're bringing on new ones. So I'm really excited to have her be able to be the first, the face of the business when new customers reach out for work requests, be able to get information, schedule the jobs for the estimator and the technician. So super excited for that.
Yeah, that's a lot of trust you have to have in that role. That's like that first contact with Always Dependable Handyman service. You want it to be a good experience.
Yeah, exactly. So, I had a bunch of interviews, and I really like this person, so I'm excited to bring her on.
Awesome.
Just officially offered the job this morning. She's going to be starting on Monday.
Man, that's exciting. Is she local, or is she a remote?
Local.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yep, she's local. She's a stay-at-home mom with a young kid, so she'll be able to work from home for a couple hours every day. So,
okay.
So So I know I mentioned 6 people. So we have me. I'm the owner operator, also working in the estimator role, and technician, kind of filling a couple roles there. And then we have 3 other technicians working. And then my wife does some of the kind of accounting type stuff. And then our 6th person is going to be our customer relations manager. So total 6 people in our little company,
Awesome, man. That's
which
great.
is big. A lot of growth from last year where it was just me.
It's insane growth from last year. That's absolutely crazy. So take us back to May 2018. What were you doing before this, and what kind of got you into this?
Absolutely. Yeah, I always love telling my story. So we'll even go back a little farther than May 2018.
Cool.
We'll
Take
go
us
back.
back.
So we'll go high school. So I'm in high school, and when I'm getting done with high school, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. Starting to realize becoming a professional skateboarder is not going to pan out. So I didn't really have anything else in my mind. So of course everyone says just go to college. So you don't need to know what you're going to do. Just go to college, for the first couple of years, get some general, and then decide. So a couple of years in college, I decide I've always loved plants and animals, wildlife, stuff like that. So I decided to major in biology. Towards the end of my degree, I realized I really wanted to work for the National Park Service. I wanted to help preserve the last little bit of wildlife in our country. So got done. It was 2014, graduated college. Immediately got a job with the National Park Service, just a seasonal technician. And it was kind of my dream job. The only issue was it was seasonal. So I moved out, 8 hours away, took my dad's camper with me, just lived there for 6 months. And when that was coming to the end, I decided I wanted to move back to Omaha because I was engaged at the time. So my fiance at the time was living back here in Omaha. I wanted to be back with her and the dogs. So I was just I didn't have internet in my little camper. So at the library, just applying for any job that my degree would work. And I got pretty much my other dream job is I got a job as a zookeeper here in Omaha. So moved back to Omaha, got a degree I got my job as a zookeeper, taking care of giraffes and rhinos. Absolute dream job.
That is so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I met some of my best friends that still work there and everything. So kind of living the life. Just got married then, and had my dream job right out of college. The only issue is it's one of those jobs that everybody wants to do. So there's people that intern unpaid for years, and the field in general doesn't pay the best. So I'm working there full time, and I always had kind of side jobs. I was a dog walker for a while. I worked at the Air and Space Museum as an educator for a while, and we were having our first kid, my wife and I. So when she had her first kid, she was actually working full and part-time. She was a cosmetology instructor and doing hair on the side. So I'm working 2 jobs, she's working 2 jobs, and we just had the kid. So it was kind of like, okay, this isn't working. And I start picking up more side work. So then she can only work full-time and spend more time with the kids. So she starts only working full-time, and I start just doing random things on the side. I'm just like, anything I can do to help out around the house, financially. So luckily, one of my sisters is a real estate agent. And at the time, her and her husband had a handful of rental properties that they were buying, fixing up, and renting out. They had one person doing some work, and he did all right work at first, but towards the end, he just wasn't very dependable. So I remember, So
awesome.
Little inspiration there.
We'll get to the name in a little bit. So kind of one of my first handyman jobs was for her. She bought a condo, and it needed a lot of work, new kitchen cabinets, new flooring in the living room, just painting throughout, and it was vacant. So every day when I got off work, I would, work from 7:30 to 4:30 at the zoo. I would just go straight over to this condo and do work. It was awesome. I could work super late, because, I was there probably 1 or 2 in the morning most days. And then the days I was off from the zoo, I was over there working. And at that point, I realized, I might be able to kind of make a little business, because other people, like some of her coworkers, were like, hey, who's renovating your condo? Like, who's doing some work? And like, oh, my brother's doing it. So officially in May 2018 is when I Googled how do I make a handyman business? So I just Googled it, and
Love it.
In Nebraska, there's not as much regulations and everything. So I was able to register as a licensed contractor. I was able to get my business insurance, register the business and do all that. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm going to start a little business. So I was kind of brainstorming, like, what do I call myself? Am I Mike's Handyman? Am I, and I started to think, well, what do everybody need? What does everybody complain? That I don't have a dependable handyman. So I just went with the name, Always Dependable Handyman Services.
There you go.
And it just kind of stuck from there. So that was kind of how I started, and it was great from right off the bat. I had, great luck finding business, because one of my first jobs that wasn't my sister was one of her friends who was a real estate agent, and she was selling a house that the guy was military and already moved away, so the house was vacant. So it worked perfect with my availability in the evenings. And I just got to work, started doing some flooring in that job, switching out light fixtures, some faucets and stuff like that. And at that point, I made a Facebook page, and I just started advertising on Facebook just right away and started bringing in some business. I learned a ton. I was working out of a Honda Civic when I first started.
Wow.
So the back seat and the trunk were just full of tools, and that's kind of the start right there. And then I don't know if you want to go through kind of the growth from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good transition that will tie in the growth, certainly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you created a Facebook page, you advertise on Facebook. Obviously there's like connections, and you have family there. So I know that's a huge part, a good strategy. Like when you first start is like, just tell your friends and your family, like, hey, I'm offering handyman services. Having a sister that's a realtor, I'm sure has its benefits for that too. But if you don't mind kind of fleshing out, what was your marketing strategy when you first started? And if you could also explain, like, if there's anything that's been added or morphed, as you've grown now to, a larger team, just more than yourself.
Yeah. So, I remember my first job I got that was just random, through Facebook. It was pretty quick after I made my Facebook page. I think I might have posted something on the buy sell trade page, but it was a single mom that needed a bunch of baby gates installed, TV hung and all this stuff. So I was thrilled because, first customer that was, through my quote unquote marketing on Facebook. So I did some work for her, and she actually became a great referral. So she started, there was this group that was called, it was a Facebook group. I think it was called West Omaha Moms in the Know. So she made a little post about me. And then I had so many people reaching out saying, hey, somebody posted your business on West Omaha Moms in the Know. And I got tons of working professionals that are just so busy that they either don't know how or don't want to hang their curtain rods on their days off and that kind of stuff. So I was kind of marketing in two different areas. I was doing kind of the busy working professionals that needed their TV hung, the nursery painted, and then also I was doing a lot of work for the real estate agents as well, referrals. So that's kind of initial marketing.
That's awesome.
Okay. For Facebook too, just to kind of flesh that out a little bit for anyone, because it's a huge question that we get all the time, is like, what the heck do I do to like get initial traction in your business? And so you joined like local buy sell groups, and would you just make posts right from your personal page in there, or from your business? If you don't mind kind of explain a little bit more into Facebook, because I know a lot of guys have questions of how to effectively use it.
Yeah, I didn't do too much at first, but yeah, it was essentially from my personal page. You just you share your business page and say, hey, I'm offering handyman services. So that was I didn't do any of the paid advertising on Facebook. It was just through those. And then as soon as I got a couple customers, it was just word of mouth, reaching back out to those customers and telling them, please tell all your friends about me. So,
yeah. So get in with the moms. That seems to be a big takeaway.
The
here.
moms in the know.
Right. Oh yeah. Make sure they're in the know.
It was
not the out of the know.
Right.
It was huge. Because it was funny because it was another customer that said, hey, I found you on West Omaha Moms That Know. Somebody made a post about you. So I remember running home and telling my wife, I'm like, hey, do you know about this Facebook group, West Omaha Moms That Know? She's like, yeah, I'm in that group. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we looked it up and saw the post on there. I'm like, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Got a lot of people from that Facebook group. So
That's cool. That's cool. I'm always curious about the pricing. When you first started out, and say you did that first job of that gal, the mom in the know that needed the baby gates, how did you price that job? How did you know what to charge for that job?
I had no idea. So kind of taking it back, when I first started the business, I also, not only did I Google how to become a handyman, I YouTubed how to start a handyman business. And guess who I found that had maybe 1,000 subscribers at the time on YouTube?
I have
good
no
old
clue.
honestly handyman services. So I mean, I think you were pretty new at that time, and I went back, watched all your older videos, and you gave me a lot of helpful advice, but not ashamed to admit I did not charge near enough when I first started.
I don't think
in my
any
mind,
of
it
us
was like,
did.
oh, this is a side job. If I make, I'm not making much hourly, and I just thought of the same thing. Like, oh, if I just make a little more hourly than what I'm making in my full-time job, that's awesome.
Right.
You learn soon that there's a lot of overhead with the taxes and insurances, and
so would you be so bold to tell us exactly what you charge, if you remember, for those baby gates?
Oh, I don't even remember. I mean, I was probably over there for a few hours and made $100 or something. I don't, but not enough.
Yeah. No. I mean, the only reason I ask is because we've all done it, and I think it's important for people to know when they're first starting out that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to know exactly, and make sure you're going to be making an amazing profit margin. Obviously, that's something that you want to work on, and that's something you need. But we've all made mistakes. I mean, I remember I was at someone's house for like 3 hours and I made like $50. Like it's pretty insane. But we've all done it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you've got to be aware too. Like, as you
we've
grow
all
and
done that, definitely.
Yeah, as you grow and like you realize, what you charge for the rate for your baby gates, and it's like, wait, I can't do this, or else I may as well be flipping burgers at McDonald's. Like to be aware of that though, and to make those pivots and increase your pricing and look at your numbers and your insurance, your overhead, and take all that into account. It seems it's like a process, like you got to start with, throwing out $100 for a bunch of baby gates, and then it evolves into a science as you grow, where I'm sure now there's a lot more that goes into your quotes than, the first mom in the know, which we will use every chance we get to say mom in the know.
That's a great saying. When I first started, I remember I just kind of threw a number out. I picked a number out of thin air because I was making whatever. I was making $20 an hour at my job or whatever. And I'm like, well, if I charge $50 an hour, then that's going to be all right, right? Because that's a heck of a lot more than what I was making. And you do the job, and then you reevaluate the job, and you look at that job, like you said, it's a living process of like, you got to look at that job like, well, that job really took me 3 hours and I charged blah, blah, blah. Could I do that quicker, or, do I need to charge more money for it? So it's an ever evolving process. And that's why I say pricing is really something that you got to figure out for yourself. You're the only one that can really determine what your pricing needs to be. And it might vary wildly on, job to job, So that's some info for the moms on the know. In the know there.
On that note, Mike, too, if you don't mind kind of like going from the baby gate story to like, we like to call it your pricing journey. So like how, if you could kind of walk us through your pricing journey from your first job to now, how are you pricing, estimating jobs currently?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like Alan, just pulling a number out of thin air when I first started. So, I would be like, what do you think that's worth? Like, how much would I pay for somebody to hang a TV? And I would pay somebody $25. So then I would charge somebody $25, and I'm like, hey, wait, I should have charged so much more. So yeah, at first for a long time, not charging enough, and that was one of the things I really struggled with is not charging enough right out the bat. But now we've the numbers and we know what we need to make, our hourly need. So now we're billing closer at minimum $75 an hour, but closer to $100 an hour for the work now, which is a big difference from when I was just pulling a number out of the hat thinking, what is that worth?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And is that per man hour, or do you just have one technician on the job at one time?
Yeah, so it does change a little bit when we have multiple technicians on the job. Ideally, it's per person, per man hour on the job, but there's certain types of job where we won't get as much. Maybe we'll do 130 for 2 people working, depending on the type of work. But we're kind of branching out at this point where we're doing the handyman work and we're also doing some larger remodel work. So still figuring out all the pricing on that type of work as well. So kind of 2 sides of the business, and you have to price them a little different.
So Mike, do you think you can explain for our viewers out there how you determine your hourly need? What does that look like for you? What did that look like?
Yeah. So, well, I took a class from Alan Lee. So
there you go.
I sat down and I crunched everything from the business and also my personal expenses. So everything I needed, and I found out how much I need. And this is when it was just me. I found out how much money I need to bring in to run the business and to run the household, to have what I need. And then, you just figure out your hourly need. Where it got a little tricky is when I started bringing on employees, because the overhead goes up and how much you charge for them. So I try to charge the same rate as if they're doing the work as if I was doing the work. So yeah.
Huge. Love it, man. Thanks for that explanation. That's huge.
Yeah. And looking at your personal expenses.
But yeah, I'm still struggling with pricing. Everyone does.
It's a constant thing, dude. Like I was just talking to Jason, like we're still in the realm of trying to figure out our sweet spot. Like it's something that, even the experts, they're still constantly changing. It's something that you need to constantly change as your business grows, as the economy grows, as inflation happens. Like there's constantly things that happen every single day that's going to change what we price for jobs,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're always adjusting the numbers, trying to see what works best for our business.
Awesome. I want to point out too, something I love that you shared there was you looked at your personal need, like your personal family expenses. And I think that's so important. I know a lot of businesses, they look at their business expenses, and I think it's especially important for someone just starting out, or if you're by yourself, like what do you need to bring in for yourself or your family? So, if you're thinking about starting a business, you need to know what you need to bring in, right? But a lot of people, it seems basic, right? But people don't look at their, I like to look at personal income as like, that's your personal revenue, and you've got expenses and you've got net from your personal household. And it's it's just directly tied to your business, especially when you're doing it full time. So, I guess I just want to commend you for that and sharing that, and encourage people to, not only look at your pricing and your business and your overhead, but look at your household expenses, and you're going to be able to trim some stuff there, I'm sure, and to ultimately improve. I think ultimately that will improve your business. So, so I think that's a great point to bring up there. Very
true. And I think
Absolutely.
that's fantastic, because there's so many businesses out there that don't know their numbers, and that's really where it needs to start. To go back where we both started, right? When I started in 2016 and you started in 2018, we just pull a number out of thin air and we charge that, right? That's what some people are doing, like even 5-10 years into their business, and they're doing it because it's working, right? But at the end of the day, there's a difference between being busy and being profitable. And you need to make sure at the end of the day you're being profitable. And the only way to figure that out is to actually crunch your numbers. That's something that we've pushed pretty hard, on this podcast. Is something you gotta sit down, and I always recommend print out the last 3 months of bank statements, both for your personal stuff and your business stuff. It's really going to help you out on the personal aspect anyways, and just highlight all the stuff. You're probably going to find out that you went to McDonald's like 100 times and you could probably cut back on a few McDoubles, you know what I mean? And that's going to save you a couple $100, throughout the month, or who knows, right? It's very important to know your numbers. Very important.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I didn't know them for the first, 2 years when I was doing it part time because it was just side money. It
Mhm.
was just work on the side. So I didn't
Right.
really sit down and kind of crunch the numbers until um, when I actually left the zoo. We didn't talk about that yet, but May 2020, kind of when the pandemic was hitting,
Hmm.
um, had a midlife, probably third life crisis. I'm still young, so third life crisis, um, where I started to think, do I want to be a zookeeper forever? I love the job, I love the animals and everything I was doing, but I didn't like that I was working pretty much full time as a handyman in the evenings and my days off, and working full time at the zoo. And they were having to let some people go in certain departments because they had to close. There was a things were shutting down. So I started reevaluating, and I realized, sure, I can make a little more money to provide for my family if I moved up the ladder, but then I'm not working with animals, which is what I wanted to do. So yeah, I left the zoo in May 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, and I didn't know my numbers then. So I just kind of jumped in. My wife had just been laid off because she was a cosmetologist and she was at a new
Wow.
salon at the time, and they went out of business. So I just jumped in full force by myself in May 2020. And that's when I really kind of had to crunch the numbers. And thankfully, everybody here in Omaha went in their backyard for the first time during the pandemic and realized their fence was falling over, their deck needed stained, they needed a play set built in the backyard for the kids. So I just started doing a ton of outside work last summer. And that's really when I kind of figured out what I need to charge to make it worth. Because at that point, my wife was unemployed. I just went
Hmm.
full time in the business. I didn't have any employees at the time, so that's kind of when I figured out what I have to charge and what I need to make per month to provide for the business and the household. So for the
Hmm.
first 2 years, I was just pulling numbers out of thin air.
That's a bold move, man. That's courageous. So awesome job. And that's a trend
Thank you.
too. Every person we talk to, whenever you make that jump to full time in your business, like it's a bold, courageous move, right? And it can be scary. So I mean, your wife was just laid off, and then you like on purpose left your job to focus on the handyman
Yeah.
business. So that's so awesome, man. It just shows like you
Thank you.
believed in it and just went for it. If you don't mind, like where in May 2020, you're like, baby, I'm about to leave this job. I'm doing handyman business full time. What were your pricing and your numbers like then? Were you comfortable enough to make that
Um,
leap, or was it kind of like invest, like knowing that you're going to improve it?
it was knowing I was going to improve it. There was a lot
Mhm.
of, kind of just jump and build the parachute on the way down, just figure it
Mhm.
out as I go. I think at the time I'd been investing, buying a lot of tools and stuff, but I was still working out of, or no, I did have a little nicer truck at that point. But at first I was working out of like this bright yellow, ugly van that I was embarrassed to pull up at client's house because it's not what I wanted to represent, but it's all I could afford. I got rid of the
Mhm.
Honda Civic, but I had this horrible van where if you stepped in the wrong spot in the back, you would fall through because it was rusty. So there was a lot of, I upgraded to a nice pickup truck and a trailer, which was a huge
Hmm.
upgrade and helped the kind of the efficiency of the business. But that summer, I got to give one of my friends a huge shout out because he kind of helped me grow. That summer, right after I left the zoo, I was just kind of I wanted to grow the business, but I didn't know anything about bringing on employees. I didn't know if it'd be worth it or anything. So one of my interns at the zoo, he was supposed to go to Africa for the summer to study elephants, and that didn't happen because COVID. So he actually told me, he's like, "Hey, I really want to learn how to build things. I'll come work for you a couple days a week for free if you just teach me." And I'm like, yeah. So he was just a couple days a week, and I realized at that point, like having another person being able to help on the jobs made it so much more efficient. We were able to get so much more done. As soon as he was done and went back to college, at the end of when I made a post for my first employees. So I brought my first employee in August 2020, just a couple months after leaving, after jumping in full time. So
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
What was that employee like? What role? And also, like,
yeah,
how did you find this, or what was the hiring process like?
yeah. So I posted on Indeed, which was awesome. I had a bunch of responses right away. And I had two people. I didn't want to hire somebody full time because I was still trying to figure out how to provide for myself full time. I didn't want somebody else's livelihood in my hands at that point in my business. So I posted on Indeed looking for some part time people or a part time person, and ended up finding two that I really liked. So I ended up hiring them both part time for like 2 days a week. Maybe 10 to 16 hours total per person. One of them is still with us now. He's been with us over a year, and he's a firefighter full time. So he works 24-hour shifts, a couple days a week, and then has a lot of time available. So he works kind of 9 to 3 while the kids are in school. So he's still with us over a year. He's awesome. That was kind of my first employee, and luckily it went really well. It didn't scare me away. I hear horror stories, people with their first employee, but no, he's been amazing. Huge help, growing the business. And then one of the guys that hired back in August 2020, he left to go do another job, something full-time, couldn't compete with the benefits, and I was happy to give him a good reference, So at that point I brought on, I was planning on maybe bringing on one full-time person, and ended up with bringing on two full-time people this year. So I hired them in May 2021. So I've only had a full-time, not even a full year with them yet. So.
Okay. So after 1 year full-time, you had a full-time person and two part-time people, like, and all in technician-like roles.
Yep. Exactly.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's been amazing.
And paying your family salary, if you will.
Yeah,
yourself,
exactly.
Be able to take care of yourself and your family.
Exactly. So
sweet.
Man, that's great. So what would you say have been the biggest wins that you've experienced to get you to where you are, like both in business and personal?
I would say the biggest win would be able to, now my wife's at home with her two kids, is being able to provide for the family, that she's able to stay home. I would say that's absolutely the biggest win I've had. As far as the business, I would say the biggest win is just having the right technicians that are helping grow the business. So, they've been huge help. Couldn't do it without them. So
that's awesome.
That's the biggest win as far as business goes. So, yeah.
Man, that's huge. And then, so adversely, like, what would you say the biggest struggles that you faced have been?
So, I'm still struggling with it. Like, as we're growing, I'm still in the technician role a lot because I really like building things and I like doing the type of work. Is really just the kind of the estimating and the customer relation personnel, as I call the position. We had my wife doing it. She was awesome at it, doing she set us up with Marcate, which is a CRM on our phone to schedule. We found out we don't actually work that well in that role together. There was a lot of just kind of arguing and stuff. Some spouses can work together like that.
We found the
really
same.
Working.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the evening, if we're arguing about why you didn't respond to this person and stuff, it's not very good for us.
Right.
So she stepped away from that role, and I've been doing it also lately. That's why bringing on, an actual outside customer relation manager is going to be huge. So I would say that's the biggest thing we've kind of struggled with.
So like general organization of inbound requests.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we're working on streamlining it, but at first, like a lot of people, set up a Google Voice number. So I had people calling and texting the Google Voice number. People were still calling, texting my personal number. People calling or messaging on the website, on the Facebook, Google page. So just all over the place with requests, which is a great problem to have. Amazing problem to have is so many people reaching out, but getting all that organized is kind of something we've struggled with the most.
Yep. I can definitely understand that. And I love that you brought up the Google Voice number. Since you brought it up, I'd love to talk about it. It's a very important thing to do. Maybe you want to talk about kind of what Google Voice number has done for you. Like, what do you like about Google Voice?
Oh, I love it. It's awesome. It's a dedicated number that people can call, and they can send text messages, like voicemails. When my wife was in more of that role, it would go to her phone and my phone. So essentially she would get a text with some information. She would be able to respond, but she couldn't she could just tell me, hey, look in Google Voice, because I also had it on my phone, and respond to that client as well. So it was a game changer for the business, kind of having that dedicated number that wasn't my personal number. So
yep, I love it. I love it. And it's free. You know, I don't know how Google does it. I assume that they're going to start charging for it eventually, but
I'll do one thing. We're not sponsored by Google, but I do recommend Google Voice. We could be sponsored
we could
by
be.
Google.
If Google is watching this, you could sponsor us. We wouldn't stop you.
Yes.
Thank
you,
well,
Google.
when I first looked into it, they didn't have my area code. They only had like the Iowa one. So I was like, I didn't get it at first. They didn't have a 402, which is the Omaha area code. And when I finally got it, I was so thrilled to have it. Yep, 402. So.
Yeah, so anyone out there that's like, I'm going to set this up right now, you're going to be walked through prompts. Select personal, because that'll set up the free number for you. Whenever you go the business route, you're getting into their Google Workspace, which ties in phone, email, and there is a charge for that. So I know a lot of guys I talk to, like, oh, I clicked through and they wanted to, $10 a month, and it's because they went through the business. So just select that personal. If you just need one business number, just get set up, get going, go through that personal route, and it is free.
Look at that. I'm learning something. I didn't even know that. I didn't know they had a paid. Okay.
Someone just brought one of our clients just brought this up this week. They're like, oh,
okay.
And I kind of traced back through, his steps. Like, oh, well, it's because you went with the business. Select personal. So
that's awesome.
Side note there, if anyone's like on the ball, they're listening to this, like on the go and setting it up right now, select personal.
Personal. They put this in the Moms in the Know Facebook page.
Yes. Yes.
We need to get Handymans in the Know Facebook page. That's our next Facebook page.
Handymans
this is awesome. That's
Yep.
what I love about this Handyman Success podcast. Like, even though we're the hosts, like, we're learning. You know what I mean? This is awesome stuff.
That's what I do.
Man, I got one question that I want to kind of go back to, Mike. And this is kind of a brainstorming question that I know some people probably have. You mentioned that you have a handyman business, and then you've been doing a lot of remodel stuff. Do you personally want to start up a new brand or a new business for the remodel side of things? Or do you want to just lump it all in the handyman? What do you think's better?
So that is a great question that I don't have the answer to yet. Next year, if we talk about this again, hopefully I'll have the answer. But it's a tough decision, because I have the brand of Always Dependable Handyman services, but we're also offering some stuff that's not quote unquote handyman services. So kind of where we're at right now is I'm still doing a lot of kind of the small jobs throughout the day. I'll go run and do a little job, but our technician, who's a firefighter full time, I pretty much have him set up on more quote unquote handyman projects. And then one of my other technicians, who is full time, he has like 15 years of experience in remodels. So he's pretty much set up on kind of doing more tile work, more projects where he's there for multiple days, maybe multiple weeks. And then our newest technician, who has not as much experience, kind of bounces back and forth. So he might be doing more quote unquote handyman jobs, hanging blinds one day, and then he might be helping out with the tile job or the remodel. But that's new for our business. We probably did our first full house like flooring job, which was pretty big for us. It took a couple weeks, to do all new flooring, I think in March. And then since then we've done, some bigger jobs where we're doing a lot of tile work lately. We just finished up a job for an interior designer where it was tiling all the bathrooms, replacing all the light fixtures, and more of a remodel type work where we're there every day for a couple weeks. So I don't know the best answer if I still keep it all together or if I maybe branch out and have two kind of separate businesses. Hopefully I'll have that answer before too long.
What would you say? What would you say, Jason?
I have a lot of experience in these, and I've had this conversation quite a bit.
Charlie, we just lost the mics, I think.
What? Oh, I think it's just you, man.
Oh, it's just
so.
me. Sorry.
So I'll just
Alan.
continue, Alan. Overall, okay. So one thing I want to say: whenever you do handyman and you also have the capability to do remodeling, it is awesome, because anyone that needs their ceiling fan replaced at some point, they're going to need their bathroom remodeled. And homeowners, they want one company, one always dependable company that they can call. And so I recommend keeping it all under one hood. Not only is it going to be simpler from a business management perspective, all under one hood, but marketing wise, you have the same marketing assets. So it's going to be easier to manage. And also, you're not cannibalizing website traffic between, say, Always Dependable Handyman, Always Dependable Remodeling. There's ways to structure that where it can be under one hood. So, the easiest solution, like business name wise, is Always Dependable Handyman and Remodeling. Instantly bucketing those. A slower start, since it's kind of new to you. I would say to just get it up on your, in your advertising on your website, wherever people can kind of see what you guys do, and, add that into your repertoire, putting on your flyers, start like raising awareness and upselling, or letting your current handyman clients know that you guys do this. And then as that gets busier, navigate the more, the more complex, bigger changes that you could make in, business name, marketing. There's a whole different set of keywords that are involved with remodeling, tiling, all that good stuff. But I would say it's definitely best under one hood, because you're not cannibalizing any marketing assets. It's all the same Facebook, same website, all your SEO values, same Google My Business. So anyway, that's my recommendation. One example is look at general contractors that do decks, fences, remodels, new construction. It's under one brand that they run that through. And one example, Chris Olson came on the podcast. He's episode 3.
I think it's 3.
Episode 3. And
that was a great one.
He's a general contractor, and we actually work with him. And so, I've seen it with, fences, decks, handyman services, all marketed together. And you can do it all under one hood. It's just the way you communicate it.
So now what would you think, Jason? Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Here in Nebraska, I am registered as a general contractor. So it was more of a mental thing at first, where I wasn't confident doing the bigger jobs, especially when I was doing it part-time and maybe just had or when I was doing it full-time, maybe just had a part-time technician. But now as we grow, we have the capability to do more of that. So I think you're right. Some of our best kind of small remodel type jobs we've been doing are ones that maybe 2 years ago, I replaced a ceiling fan for them, and they saw on Facebook that, we might have posted something like a tile project on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, 2 years ago, you said you didn't do that, but now you guys are offering that?" We're like, "Yeah." And, we've had a lot of clients like that as well. So.
Yeah. And that's why those general contractor services are great additions to a handyman business, especially as you're, figuring out how to scale. How do you add more employees and be able to support someone full time? Whenever you get those bigger jobs, they're, like a 1 week remodeling job, you only need 52 of those in a year to keep a guy busy. And same with fences, decks. So it's also a good avenue, not only just because your ideal clients that are already part of your handyman business, they're going to want that. But business wise, it's nice because those projects are longer. And so you can keep guys on them. My technician, Dave, he's going to be on this bathroom, or he's going to be on this remodel project for the next 2 weeks. And so his time's accounted for, we've got that dialed in. So it's definitely a good thing to consider if you have the licensing and can, actually do the work, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So then I think this begs the question.
The catch-22 is, the catch-22 is, though, you start doing the bigger jobs and you're booked out for, multiple weeks. It's harder to squeeze in those little things. So I think that's why having my technician who is available, I don't usually put him on their quote remodeling jobs, and I'm just leaving him open. So he might have availability in a week or 2 weeks when I might not be available for a couple months. So it's great having the different individuals with different availability and everything. So
yeah, and especially too, because people are more willing to wait for a larger job. Like someone's going to wait 6 months for the best remodeler in town to do their bathroom, or the best deck contractor to do their deck. But someone's likely most people are not going to wait more than a month for a home repair.
Absolutely.
So it's tricky, 100%. So, Chris Olson is guess a quick plug here for the Handyman Success Mastermind Facebook group. That's a group that all of us are in. If Mike's not in there, we're going to get him in there. All our previous podcast guests are there. And you can pick their brain, ask them questions. It's all about business and marketing. But Chris Olson is in that group, and he has firsthand experience right now, like doing all these different avenues while still having the handyman side too. So anyway, there's probably good knowledge in there for anyone listening that kind of wants some more if we don't dig into it coming up here.
So I got one question for you, Jason. This has been kind of a wild topic, debate, as you could say, maybe on the Moms in the Know Facebook group or the Handyman in the Know. Sorry. Should you, when you're starting a business from an SEO standpoint, marketing standpoint, because I know that Chris Olson is Pacific Home Maintenance, right? Should you call yourself a handyman or should you call yourself something home maintenance? What's better?
What's better in the eyes of Google is having handyman. That's open up a Google My Business page, you select your category, you basically tell Google, hey, what Google's asking you, what are you? There's no home maintenance company
I
option.
am home maintenance.
Yeah, there is no home improvement. There's no home repair company. There's handyman. So that's from being in my court. I would say use handyman.
That settles it right there. Yeah, and I mean when people search on Google, right? They're like handyman in Omaha, Nebraska. They're not going to search. Well, they might home maintenance in.
Yeah,
Omaha, Nebraska.
And Google's so smart too. It's they know they can connect the two. AI is growing at an alarming, very scary rate, and even in marketing. Google. So they know, but nonetheless, right now, number one factor in ranking is the keyword in your business name. Unfortunately, there's lots of other factors. Lots of other factors you can do to overcome that, like Pacific Home Maintenance has, but. I know we got off on a tangent here, but if anyone has not started their business yet, I do recommend using handyman because that's what the highest volume keyword. That's what Google identifies your business as.
Yep.
And I'm sure that Mike has seen the benefits of that in his own Google My Business and having handyman in his name. It does help, especially in the short term.
Yeah. And at first, I think handyman's the absolute best thing you can call yourself because people just, oh, handyman, I'm going to ask if they could do this. So I had people reaching out for things that maybe I didn't even know I could do. And I was like, yeah, I could figure that out, just because they assume a handyman can do everything. And I was able to really learn myself, kind of learn how to do the work on my own by having handyman because people would ask. I was confident I could do the work and I was not afraid to say, hey, I can't do that project. But if I was just called myself, a maintenance, maybe people would only call me for maintenance, but when I was calling myself a handyman, people were calling me for tons of different things, anything around the house, just the most random things at first, which was awesome to help grow the business. I think if you call yourself home maintenance, you're only going to get maintenance job. You might not get those really weird ones, which I've had in the past. So
that's a good point. And I think handyman means something different all around the world. Like it's primarily based on, well, laws has a big thing to do about, like here in California, handymen are pretty limited to the amount of work, things like that. And same with other, parts of the country. So because there's some handymen, elsewhere in different states that can do full remodels and things like that. But here in California, you would need to be a licensed contractor for that. So it means different things to different places. So make sure you do your research and, get plugged in and, look that up. I think that's important. So, Mike, what are your upcoming goals? I mean, last year you had an annual revenue of about 80K, you said. This year you're at 175. Yeah. You're looking at hitting 250, which is astronomical. Where would you want to be in a year from today or 2 years from today? Where do you want to be?
So as far as revenue, I want to be as high as possible, but it's more of a lifestyle goal. I want to be at a point where I'm not working with the tools every single day. So the technicians are bringing enough revenue that I can work on the business and not in the business. Mm-hmm. And then I would like to grow it to a point where I can take vacations and things can run on their own. It's been a great year. I took a couple of really awesome vacations, but they're still, checking all the, doing a lot of work from my phone as well. So it's more of a lifestyle goal. So whatever revenue I need to get to for that, to have the business run on its own at some point indefinitely, but for the, 5 years, I want to be working on the business, but then also be able to step away time to time and it still run on its own.
So what have you planned anything or have any ideas on like how you're going to, I guess, in a sense, like from right now, how do I work less hours and have less stress? Like, is there anything that you
Yeah.
kind of have planned and are working on to achieve that kind of lifestyle balance with a business that can be very, very demanding?
Yeah. I mean, it really comes down to having the technicians trained in with the right systems that I feel comfortable, sending them out completely by themselves. And they do amazing work and everything. But I also, I feel like sometimes I have to be there doing things. So just putting faith in them and, being able to work a little more on the business. Because right now, my ideal thing is I'm working 3 days with tools, one day driving around doing estimates, and one day just catching up on jobs, not necessarily scheduling something. So I would like to get that. I still will always want to build certain things, but maybe I'm, building from my garage some cabinets and the guys are installing them on site. That's another kind of goal I have because I really like doing the woodworking.
Okay.
So I think I'll always still be doing some stuff, but do what I really want to do.
I'm glad you touched on estimating. We got like 5 or 10 minutes here, right? If you don't, how do you estimate? You mentioned you have one day set aside every week that you do all your estimates, and also kind of piggybacking that is, do you provide estimates via like text or do you go to the in-person every time, or is there a balance there?
There's definitely a balance. At first, every single client I wanted that face-to-face time to kind of build that rapport. Even if it was like a little ceiling fan job, I'd go out and look at that ceiling fan and realize that's not necessary. So now it's a lot of it is sending photos, and if I can give the quote virtually, either through the messages or just email over an estimate through Marquette, we'll do as many of those as possible. But there's still tons of jobs where I want to go out. I want to measure. I want to see exactly what they have in mind. And that's more for kind of the remodel type things. Like this week, I'm working on completely updating a pantry. So tore out all the shelves, built some countertops, a bunch of custom shelves. Well, you have to go see that. You have to go measure. You have to go knock on the walls, make sure, you can do what the customer wants. So there's a balance between that.
Okay.
I like to, if I know I went out and looked at that job in person, I kind of keep that in mind when I'm doing the estimate. Like, okay, I've already spent, 30 minutes driving there. So I kind of take that into account. They're free estimates, but when you really think about it, like, okay, I've already spent time going to that house. I might add on a little bit because of that. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you said, so for in-person estimates, do you schedule those all one day a week, or are you kind of willy-nilly?
Yeah, it was willy-nilly, and now it's one day a week. It used to be whenever worked for the customer, I will make that work. And now it's okay, this is the day I have free. I have Wednesdays open. What works best on Wednesday? And
And did you have any kickback whenever you made that kind of firm switch to, hey, I'm sorry, I do my estimates on Wednesday? Did you notice any kind of downside to that?
Not as much as I thought. I thought it'd be a huge thing. I thought it'd be like, oh, you can't come on my terms. But yeah, everyone's been really good about it. So
I was hoping you'd say that, because that's what I was hoping that was the answer, because it's one of those things where, as a business owner, you think like, oh, I've got to be so flexible and meet them exactly where they're at to their best time. But, you've got to guard your schedule and organize your business. And to me, it's one of those things that it's not that big of a deal. If they're going to be a good customer and it's Thursday, well, they can get it on the next Wednesday or maybe even the next Wednesday. So it's not that you didn't notice that big of a deal. So
yeah,
that's good.
I think that's one thing that I learned throughout the years is that, like, the majority of the time, most handymen or most contractors or whatever, they go after anything that has a pulse, right? Like, if someone calls like, oh, like you got a pulse in a house, like you got money, I'm going to go give you an estimate right now. Like, I got to drop everything. But at the end of the day, like, when someone calls you for work, it's as much as they are wanting to see if you can work for them, you should be wanting to see if they are going to work with you. Like, it's kind of like a two-way interview. You got to make sure that they are the right customer that you want to work with, So I think establishing that first boundary of like, okay, my estimate day is Wednesday rather than, okay, I'm coming over right now. Like, it establishes some form of respect, that I think is important to establish in that relationship. Being like, hey, I am a handyman, but that doesn't mean I'm going to come over to your house at 10 o'clock at night for an estimate. You know what I mean? I have a family. So I think respect is huge.
Yeah, I think I see that a lot, and I think it's a natural thing for business owners, and from my experience, especially handymen, you just want to help people. And so I think especially new in business, your just gut is like, I need to go do that estimate like at 7 p.m. after dinner because I need to help this person. But you need to help yourself too, or else you're not gonna be able to help other people. So I think it comes from this internal thing that most business owners have, especially handymen, to really just be there and help, especially early on when you're just trying to figure stuff out and you think that if I don't go to that estimate tomorrow, then they're never going to call me back. And it's just not the reality.
Yep, for sure. Mike, would you have any last advice or tips for handymen out there listening to us?
I mean, I guess my advice is, I think the route I went was an amazing way to do it, where I was working full-time and part-time, because I was able to build up such a great clientele. Over those 2 years working full-time and part-time, I had so many great customers that I was able to build up. So as soon as I went full-time, I remember I made a post on my Facebook page, which, I had quite a bit of followers on the page. I just said, hey, I'm going full-time. I had people just reaching out, like, they were just so excited I had availability that it was almost like they're finding projects that they wanted done. Like, oh, I want to help him out because he's making this big step. So I think starting part-time is a great way to do it. Obviously, you can jump in full-time, but being able to build up that clientele was huge for me. I mean, that's what really set it on the right path, is doing it that way. Stressful though.
Great tip. You mentioned you wrote a few things down. Is there anything that you wrote down that you kind of had in mind to maybe talk about that you wanted to drop on us?
Oh man,
What did we cover?
I mean, just nothing really. I think we kind of went through all of it. Here's a tip I learned when I was just getting started working like crazy hours. This is for all the handyman out there. If you go to Home Depot, the tool rental department, because I was working on a Honda Civic, I didn't have any tools of my own that for the jobs. If you go 3 hours before they close and do a 4-hour rental, you get it for the entire night. You don't have to return it till 9 a.m. So when I was working till 2 or 3 in the morning, I only paid for 4 hours on that tool rental. There's a good little tip. So
increase in profit, baby.
Before they close and do the 4-hour rental.
That's a heck of a tip.
So I was renting floor scrapers and tile saws and yeah. And if you do it on Sunday, they close earlier, so you get longer. So here I'll probably aerate my yard and all my neighbors' yards. I'll probably go get it 3.5 hours before they close on a Sunday night, and get a bunch of yards aerated. So that's a good tip for you. We're
going to start seeing a trend across the nation of the Home Depot rental lines. They might change their policy after this one.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I want
everyone's just an influx. Yep.
I want to do a little poll, for people that made it this far in the podcast. If you heard about that Home Depot tip, go ahead and drop us a comment in there just saying, I'm going to use that Home Depot tip. We want to hear it, the people that made it this far. That's awesome. That's excellent.
Yeah. I know there's plenty of guys in Civics out there. I've seen them.
It works best for people that do it at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. For all those people that are doing the jobs at night, that's the way to do it. So for sure.
That's great.
It might be the pro tip on the handyman level that I've ever heard.
That goes on the Handyman in the Know Facebook page, right?
Save you a little money.
Man, oh man.
Handyman in the Know. So.
Well, to round us out, Mike, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate having you on. You are an amazing person to know, just an amazing person to have in the handyman community. So excited about that. I got one last question for you. When you were at the zoo, did you ever get to ride the rhinos?
No, never got to ride them.
Oh man, because that would be like,
I wish.
That would be fantastic.
No, so I mean, every single week I would stick my arm up its butt. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
that is cool on a little bit of a different level, but it's cool.
That was his next question.
That was my next question there.
Did you ever? I mean, all the way up to the shoulder. So
wow. What were you checking for?
Pregnancy? I'll post some photos. Yeah, so the only way to
Okay.
see their ovaries is to go in with ultrasound wand, and then you can monitor their ovaries and pregnancy and stuff is go in rectally.
Well, there you go.
So
Well, I have an
everyone
idea.
can join the handyman
The
page, and I'll post some
Zookeeper
photos on there.
Success Podcast.
Zookeeper Success Podcast. There you go.
Hosted by Mike Benner.
Zookeeper's in the know. Oh man, that's good
Oh,
right there.
there's already Facebook pages like that. So I'm just waiting for him to kick me out because I'm not a zookeeper anymore.
This is fantastic.
I think with what you did with the rhinos there, that you should have a lifetime membership to any zookeeper group.
You should. That's legit right there.
Hopefully. Yeah. You know, and it just goes to show like how your life can change. You know, I thought that's what I wanted to do forever. And, you know, I worked there for 6 years and I loved it. But, you know, just started to look, do I want to fight to have holidays off for the rest of my life?
Right.
Do I want to be able to, you know, miss soccer games and stuff with the kids because they're, you know, have to work late that night or there's something going on. So it was more of a lifestyle thing.
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
And I think it's
Going
really
good.
cool. It's really cool that you're starting to see that freedom. I mean, now that, like you said, you've been able to create that stay-at-home route for your mom or for your wife, sorry, to be a stay-at-home mom. Like that's huge, you know? So that's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I think we got to wrap up
it's
here.
amazing. You know, we have 2 little kids now, and she gets to take them to school, and so yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah, well, hey, Mike, thank you again for coming on, man. This was awesome. I know that people will, you know, there's so much to learn and gather from this and be inspired from your story. You know, mom groups, start part-time, you know, tons of good takeaways. So thank you for opening up, you know, not only about your business, but about your life to, you know, share with everyone listening today.
absolutely, yeah. I hope some people get something valuable out of this. So I always like talking about kind of my journey. So hopefully, you know, and in 5 years, it's going to be a whole nother. I have big dreams. So we'll be in a whole nother ball game. So
Yeah, we'll have you back on. I think we're gonna have to follow up with a lot of our guys or a lot of our guests on here to you know, follow up with them and see how things progress over a year or two. Because so much, obviously, you are an example that 1 year's difference. I mean, it's night and day. Like just by yourself to now 6 people. I mean, that's pretty awesome, man. So let's see. Last thing,
if we have one last thing, it's another
Mike.
tip. It's a mindset thing.
All
you know, we
mindset.
did a job. I mean, this is a mindset thing. We did a job 6 months ago, and it was the biggest invoice ever sent. And we got done with it, and I looked at the amount of hours we put in. I'm like, wow, we did not make very much. So we did pretty much the same job recently and charged 3 times as much. And it was all just a mental thing. You know, I just did 3 times bigger than my biggest invoice, and it's all in your head. So
Man, love it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Very cool. Very cool. Well, for all you guys out there listening, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We got a couple asks for you. Go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave us a comment, whether you are, you know, listening to this, watching it on YouTube. We would really love to hear your feedback. And also join the Handyman Success Mastermind group on Facebook and the soon-to-be Handyman in the Know Facebook group.
In the know.
And the Zookeeper Success
And
group.
the Zookeeper Success group, right? Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We would be nothing without our viewers. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.